All right, so this is one of the best things I've ever invented. Probably as good as my omelet recipe. That's the only one that can be compared. And I don't know why nobody talks about this the way I do. I don't know why nobody actually leverages these things. Because I've seen a number of YouTube videos about morning routines, about how to optimize your dopamine and testosterone in the morning, because that's the goal of this morning routine. But nowhere were these sort of, some of these yes, but one of these practices hasn't been referenced anywhere. So I don't know if people are just so fucking scared to talk about taboo topics, because we're going to talk about unhinged stuff. But whatever, like my second name is Taboo, so I don't give a fuck. But yeah, this I've never seen this being leveraged before. But having said this about taboo and leverage and like unhinged stuff, what I want you to do is I want you to minimize this video, go down to the little like red subscribe button, and I want you to click that and turn on the notifications. Look, I know you've heard this being said 1,000 times and you don't give a fuck usually, but I want you to make an exception, because truth is, bro, I drop bangers. I leverage the placebo effect to increase your effect. So I package the science in such a way where you're actually aware of the mechanisms, because I make them understandable better than your, primary science teacher. I give you content, I give you every single autistic detail, which took me 10 years. When we're talking about time periods, this fucking routine took me exactly 2 years, 15 days and 5 months to develop, right? This is the work of just optimizing and like split testing and seeing, right? So yeah, I want you to hit that subscribe button, because YouTube doesn't like people like me talking about optimizing their testosterone, masculinity, like working hard, driving fast cars, like fucking breaking rules, fighting, having animalistic sex, and like these things, right? And saying fuck every second word. They don't like this. So, and I'm going to continue doing them. So what I want you to do is I want you to tell your friends which want their lives changed, which would benefit from this content, but I want you to subscribe, because when I drop next week or whenever I drop, I want you to know. So let's begin. After all those years, after having a testosterone of, I don't know what, but like fucking bitch tits and a big ass pelvis at 17 years old, to a caveman level testosterone, which I have now, this is what I developed. So, every good pizza begins with a dough, right? You make the dough 24 hours earlier. You have it like, the yeast does what it needs to do. I'm going to tell you how to make pizzas maybe one day, because I make pizzas for 4 years and they're fucking good. But every morning, every day, it begins with the night, right? So the night is the foundation. We're going to talk about the foundation. When you're building a house, you don't see the effects, because, they're digging holes and they're putting like things to make foundations, but that's what we're going to do. So sleep. What's the 80-20 of sleep, right? Number one, sleep. So you've heard it, right? 7 to 8 hours, whatever. I'm not going to go into detail. Bedtime at the same time. I've talked about this previously, but read the book, Why We Sleep. I'm not going to go into like the details and the science and stuff, but I think it's Matthew Walker, the book, but he explains that essentially so maintaining the circadian rhythm is as important as the quantity, right? Our body is essentially a big clock of hormones. It's nothing more. It's cycles, it's rhythms, right? You want to attune yourself as best as you can to the cycle. Just go to, within 15 minutes. Look, I'm not going to say, let me just fucking say like 80%. 80%. I'm going to say this in detail, because we're not monks. I'm not going to tell you to like go to sleep always then, or like we want to have 1,500 nanograms per deciliter, or never again drink a glass of wine. No. If you want to be Brian Johnson, yeah, go ahead. But that's not what we do here. We optimize our experience. If you have an event coming up, obviously, bro, you're not going to go to sleep at like 12 or like 10 or whatever you go to sleep. But what I want you to avoid precisely is this sort of trap that a lot of people fall into, where 5 days a week they wake up at 6 to go to school, to go to university, to go to work, to go whatever. And then 2 days they either wake up naturally at 12 because they have to catch up on the sleep, or they just party and drink and they fuck up their sleep, so they have to wake up at like 12, right? So that's what I want you to avoid. It creeps up on you. You only realize how shit your sleep is when you sleep, when you go back to like your rhythm, right? When you wake up every day at the same time and go to sleep at the same time, it's very, very important. It's like, we like car analogies here. So it's like pouring 15W40 oil into a car which has already 5W40 oil, right? You know, the different viscosities, it's not going to do good. You're not going to see it, but the wear is going to be significantly greater, right? So number one. Number two, let's talk about caffeine. Again, without going into too much details, I already talked about this before, but I'm going to mention it because it's a game changer. As somebody who went from drinking 8 coffees, 8 espressos a day, and the last one I drank at 17, so at 5 p.m., to somebody who went completely off of caffeine, the best protocol to leverage is no more than 200 milligrams. I like capsules because I don't like the sort of the way that coffee, what it does to my stomach, the acid reflux, my breath stinks and all that stuff. So no more than 200 milligrams, no later than 12 at noon. Just do that, just try it, bro. Like if you drink coffee at 5 and you think I'm a fast metabolizer, bro, you're not a fast metabolizer. Half of that caffeine is in your system and you sleep like shit. The adenosine receptors are fucked. So caffeine, without further ado. Number 3, let's go a bit more into depth, but not like hugely. Let's talk about blood glucose, right? Let's talk about blood glucose and insulin. So, when you eat a meal, your blood glucose raises, unless the meal had very little protein and a lot of fat. But when you eat a meal with carbs, which actually it makes sense to eat a meal with carbs for dinner because yeah, it's better to fall asleep when you have some carbs. Insulin is good for, like, it promotes sort of like things which cause sleep, whatever. But when you ate such a meal, your blood glucose is elevated, right? Now, blood glucose usually stays elevated for about 3 to 4 hours, right? If you don't do anything with it. If you just eat and you like rest, like most people do, maybe you drink some wine, whatever, 3 to 4 hours. Now, our body doesn't like elevated blood glucose levels. They don't. Our body doesn't. So what our body tries to do is our body tries to lower them. And it employs insulin. Insulin is deployed from the pancreas, I believe, to essentially chemically put that blood glucose into the cell. So from the blood into the cell, essentially just force it in, right? When you don't do anything about this process, this takes 2 to 3 hours, thereabouts, 2 to 3 hours. It's elevated for 2 to 3 hours. And this stays elevated for about, yeah, let's say 3 to 5, right? It depends on the quantity of the meal. 3 to 5 hours. Now, the thing with insulin and the thing with blood glucose is, let's talk about blood glucose since we started with this. If you eat a big meal, and if we do metabolic stress, if we go to the gym, if we work hard, we need food, we eat big. If you eat a big meal, your blood glucose spikes, and then insulin is deployed, whatever, and insulin does its job. But the thing is, the insulin puts too much blood glucose into the cell, so it crashes. And for it to go back to normal, we need this thing called glucagon. Now, glucagon, okay, it raises blood glucose levels, whatever, but cortisol as well. Cortisol and adrenaline, right? And all the other like epinephrines, noradrenalines. The thing is, if your blood glucose drops too much and you're asleep and your cortisol takes over to put glucose back into the blood so that it's normalized, because the baseline, this isn't 0, this is some like, I don't know what it is, it's like a 90 or 80 or 70, I don't know. The thing is, cortisol is a stress hormone. Adrenaline is sort of an excitatory hormone. You don't want to be excited, you don't want to be stressed at 4 a.m. You don't want to wake up with racing thoughts with a knot in your stomach, stressed for no reason, because you fucking ate before you go to sleep, right? And this is what's going to happen. Trust me, I want you to take an ice cream, eat it today, and then go to sleep. And see when the fuck you wake up with cortisol, with adrenaline, with like stress for no reason, and you're going to have racing thoughts and intrusive thoughts, then you're going to go back to sleep. You're going to wake up with the alarm and you're going to be all groggy and sleeping like shit and hungry as well because of leptin sensitivity. Your leptin signaling is fucked. So this is what happened with blood glucose, right? It's gonna fuck up your sleep. Also, insulin, let's talk about insulin as well, just before we get to the most important part. Insulin also inhibits melatonin. So you have less melatonin being produced, or actually maybe blood glucose inhibits melatonin. One of the two. So we have melatonin, we have cortisol being released at 4 a.m. What about the most important one, which is the elephant in the room, in my opinion, which is growth hormone, right? When you go to sleep, growth hormone is being released. What is growth hormone? I'm not going to go into detail today. We're going to talk about it in the next video because I'm already scripting it. Growth hormone is essentially, it's liquid gold. It's like testosterone. It's like dopamine. It's something that, what growth hormone does is it increases your body's ability to use nutrients, it increases the enzymes that are being produced. It increases hormones. It increases, like the metabolism, right? How much energy your body needs. It's a miracle fucking drug. There are bodybuilders which inject themselves with IGF-1, which is very expensive, just so to get the boost, right? And there's a problem, because if you fall asleep with elevated insulin and elevated blood glucose, but fuck it, like insulin is important here, insulin is actually going to inhibit that growth hormone pulsation. And when you fall asleep with elevated insulin, let's write it here, elevated insulin causes a decrease in growth hormone pulse, by 4.37 times. 4.37 times less growth hormone being made if you don't go to sleep in a fasted state, if you have elevated insulin. Because growth hormone is actually made in the first, in the first period of sleeping, right? 4.37. That's not good, man. So you can either go to sleep 5 hours before your last meal. You can either eat before 5 hours before your last meal. Fair enough. Or you can do something else. You can force that blood glucose into the cell in a different way. And I'm going to put a star here because this is the way I like to do it. After every meal, after dinner, not after every meal, but after dinner. If you want to do it after every meal, it's also good for insulin sensitivity and stuff. But after dinner, I want you to take a walk, take a 20 to 30 minute walk. Let's say like relatively fast paced, right? And just come back, right? I shouldn't have deleted these things. But when you do that, your blood glucose, instead of being elevated for 2 to 3 hours, bro, it stays elevated for 30 to 60 minutes. That's a fucking 3 to 4, not X. That's a 3 to 4 times faster clearance, right? And our body doesn't like elevated blood glucose levels. So that's good for our body, that's good for our health, our brain, everything. But not only that, but your insulin, right? So that's blood glucose, blood glucose. Insulin stays elevated for 2 to 3 hours instead of 3 to 5, right? Now, obviously, the bigger the meal, it's going to be more like 3 hours. If you eat a moderate meal, it's going to be like 2 hours. But this is a game changer. Not only for like the practicality of it, because like, imagine you go on a date with a girl and it's like, you're in the restaurant at 8 and you finish eating at 9, right? Bro, 5 hours after 9, that's 2 a.m. At 2 a.m. you're fasted. If you take a walk, that's more like 11:30. Do you know what I mean? So this is a game changer. Now let's talk from the psychological sense. Even psychologists say these things. When you walk, your racing thoughts, those intrusive thoughts, those things that haven't finished yet, they reach dead ends. So this brings us over to our wind down routine, right? The next step, wind down. Look, bro, I'm not going to tell you read a book before you go to sleep, because truth is, yes, it's the best way. But the last thing we want to do after a day of hustle, after a day of like fucking working and like putting out fires and problem solving and stress, the last thing we want to do is read a fucking book. We want to watch a fucking episode of like Netflix and stuff. So if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. Put on some maybe like, blue light blocking glasses if you have them, because that is nice. If you want to read a book, go ahead. If you want to, watch a podcast, read, listen to an audiobook, whatever you want to do. The best thing I like to do is talk to people, make a couple phone calls. That's the best time to do them, But what I want you to avoid here, again, it's what I want you to avoid, just like with this thing, with whatever, bedtime and all that. I want you to avoid like stimulatory things, like putting music on, like on full speakers as if you're in the gym. I want you to avoid like, working still and like racing thoughts in your head and stressing. Do you know what I mean? If you're stressed, like do some meditation, whatever, like wind down. It's very good. When you go to sleep, it's GABA. Take your magnesium glycinate, right? Wind down. Magnesium. How do you spell magnesium? With S? Magnesium glycinate. Take your magnesium glycinate before you go to sleep. Upregulate the GABA receptors, the glycine receptors, inhibit the cortisol, the adrenaline, everything. So that's the wind down routine. Now, let's talk about temperature, right? Temperature. I want you to I don't know how cold it is in your room, but I want you to be colder. Temperature. I sleep with an open window. Not always. If I'm sleeping alone in the bed, what I do is I like open the window for 30 minutes with the radiator off, and then I close it and then I go to bed. But if I'm sleeping with somebody, if I'm sleeping with my girl, we sleep with the open window. We warm each other up under the covers and stuff. It just feels good. Our body likes cold temperatures, man. We like the room to be, 13 degrees, 10 degrees, whatever it is. It feels good. It helps the sleep. And also, if you open your window, bro, the oxygen, that's going to make you rest better. There's the room is more oxygenated and all that. So decrease your room temperature, right? That's it. I'm not going to tell you to like have, like eye masks and blackout blinds and no noise and like earplugs to reduce the noise. Because bro, that's gay. Come on, like fucking hell. Like we've been living for 200,000 years. We've been falling asleep next to fires crackling with the light of the fire. Do you know what I mean? Like, bro, imagine like pull out the little silk eye mask with sleep and fucking like earplugs. Bro, to redeem himself in that tribe, he'd have to fight like 2 boars at once. Do you know what I mean? To like regain his status. That's how much he would be viewed like a clown after that. No. But temperature, like, just chill out. Like, don't stress. Do you know what I mean? It's easy to say, but fucking make it work, man. Like, I don't know, figure it out. Like, what I do, Wim Hof, whatever, meditate. I just like to talk to people. That unstresses me. So that I don't think about work. I think about like the other people and stuff we talk. This is a game changer. This, in my opinion, is like very, very important, very underrated. You have to go to sleep fasted. It's gonna, honestly, like what you're gonna know about growth hormone in the next video, it's gonna fucking change your life. Caffeine, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and bedtime at the same time. Okay, so we've done the foundations, right? We're building the house. This was kind of long, but if you want a good morning, if you want to work good, you have to sleep good. And if you want to sleep good, there's certain rules that you have to follow, right? There are rules to this game. So let's talk about, now it gets interesting. So now you've woken up. The alarm woke you, or you've woken up naturally. Now it gets taboo. And I don't know why people don't talk about this. I don't know why these like hyper successful people don't talk about this shit, because this is a fucking game changer. Now, side note, I'm going to talk about girls here. So if you don't have a girl, or you don't have a girlfriend, or you're not dating girls, you're not seeing girls, you can be in this fucking, in this mindset of, oh, I don't give a fuck, and like they're hoes and like they're toxic. Okay, fair enough, but you're a fucking pussy if you do that. You're just unable. You fear that. You feel you fear all that shit. So if you struggle with girls, just spend 6 months obsessing about that shit, how to attract them, all that shit, so your breath doesn't stink and you go to the barber, and you know what I mean? Like, just fucking do that, because it is a fundamental fucking need. Intimacy, sex, all that stuff. It's a fundamental fucking need. And if you don't fulfill that shit, if you don't fulfill this primal need of ours, it's going to manifest in various ways. It's going to bubble up. Your identity is going to like start sprouting different sort of things if you don't fulfill your needs. So, look, if you don't have this opportunity, let this shit serve as motivation for you. but just fucking get it done, man. It's a problem. It needs solving. All this sort of like semen retention and like, you know, come on, man. Like a man and a woman, they're meant to like, you know, a man is meant to have a brotherhood and girls, or a girl, you know, depends. Like, let's fucking be real. So, let's start. So, number 2, when you start your day, when you wake up, what I want you to do is I want you to like stroke your girl a little bit, wake her up, I love you baby, good morning, all that stuff. Give her a kiss on the forehead, and then I want you to go to the toilet. I want you to take a piss. I want you to go to the kitchen, drink half a liter of water with half a teaspoon of salt. By the way, salt in the morning is great. On the empty stomach, what it does is it upregulates the production of cortisol, adrenaline, right? The adrenals start working. They start producing like these hormones, which essentially like it tells your body, okay, we're starting the day. And so it's easier to then fall asleep, right? Because you're like teaching your body the cycle, whatever. Also, it increases your blood glucose, blood pressure a little bit. So, having done that, I want you to go to the toilet, wash your teeth vigorously, come back to your girlfriend and have sex. But here's the kicker. Now, I don't know why people don't talk about this, bro. Here's the fucking kicker, man. I'm gonna put this in this. You can't ejaculate. You cannot come. This is what makes the difference, man. If you have sex without ejaculating, something very nice happens. First of all, let's talk about it. So, imagine this is dopamine, right? This is dopa. This is time, and this is also dopamine and time, right? So, in a situation where you have ejaculated, right? Your dopamine raises. You ejaculate, it drops, and then it has to like recover, right? Below baseline. Because here you have ejaculated. In fact, let me just sort of, I don't know if this works exactly that way, but like, it peaks. There's a peak. Here there is ejaculation, right? This. If you don't do it, it doesn't peak, but it drops steadily. And it doesn't go below baseline. And you're not becoming more tolerant to dopamine as you are here because of the huge peak, which causes a downregulation of of the receptors of dopamine in the brain, to protect your brain from like overexcitatory pathways. This happens. So you have a smaller peak, but it drops slowly below baseline, right? So not only have you made your own day, because you feel like a G, bro. You just woke up, you just have, and if you fuck her good also, like, you feel like an absolute, like the ferocity with which you approach the day, the fucking ruthlessness and the relentlessness, bro, that's unmatched. You've made her day. If you fucked her good, like she's all happy and lovey-dovey and everything, and that's tremendous, right? So you've done good in the world, not only for yourself, but now you've also increased your dopamine. So you want to pursue these things. You want to go out there and work. Then when you're going to do the thing that I'm about to tell you, you do this shit with pleasure, man. You're motivated to do these things, to work, to put in effort. What happens with testosterone? Same fucking thing, bro. Same thing. Now, this is easy, dopamine, right? Obviously, like when you're sexually aroused, dopamine is elevated and stuff. This is very easy. This is intuitive, right? There's even like what happens when people take serotonin selective reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs. The dopamine serotonin sort of balance shifts, and they don't really get horny that much. They don't want to pursue sex, right? They don't get aroused. They can't orgasm. They can't maintain their dick. Their little soldier isn't raised. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when someone does have dopamine, testosterone, as we know, these things, this is plus and plus, right? We have dopamine increases testosterone through gonadotropin releasing hormone, which increases luteinizing hormone, which then increases testosterone. Whereas here we have tyrosine hydroxylase. I wrote it wrong, but tyrosine hydroxylase, which also, this is a plus. So we have this is wrong, bro. One increases the other, the second one increases the first one, right? So we have this sort of chain reaction. By increasing one, we increase the other. What happens with our testosterone, right? Look, usually I don't reference research studies. This is not the channel to do that. I have tools which do that for me, right? I synthesize all that for you and give you my implementations, which are tremendous because it's years of split testing, right? But I'm going to reference one study, Exton et al. Oh, there's no dot here. Al, that's 2001. Read the study if you want, but essentially there have been testosterone levels in the plasma of the blood have been seen to increase during sexual arousal, right? So testosterone increases. Now again, if you ejaculate, that shit goes down because here there's prolactin. Prolactin is kind of like the opposite of testosterone. If you think estrogen is the opposite, well, it's not. Estrogen is not the opposite of testosterone. The opposite of testosterone is prolactin. It is the inhibitory hormone to testosterone. And then obviously it gets back up, but obviously when we ejaculate also there's like androgenic receptors which kind of, which need to be upregulated again because they decrease and stuff. So this happens when you do ejaculate. When you don't, these things release high. They stay high. You get a fucking, you get a temporary boost. Do you know what I mean? So not only are you getting a dopamine boost, not only are you more driven, not only are you more like hungry, more motivated, more ferocious, more determined, with grit, 1,000 fucking synonyms, but also your testosterone increases. Now we like testosterone. This channel is about testosterone, so do you know what I mean? Not only do you have the indirect effect of testosterone by increasing dopamine, which upregulates testosterone through gonadotropin releasing hormone and luteinizing hormone, but also testosterone itself increases. And let's look at it from an evolutionary perspective as well. What would have to happen in 200,000 years ago for a human being to stop having sex before orgasm, right? Something very, very dangerous, whether it's like a lion, whether it's some other caveman which tries to like steal your girl, whatever it is. But obviously, like, it would be natural that there are mechanisms in play in the body which upregulate the production of testosterone, because you have to confront that fucking animal or that human being which tries to take your girl. Okay, so this is what you do. You get it done. I'm not going to tell you how, like, just get it done, like, and get it done good. So, done. Number 2. Now that you're done, let's add the cherry to the cake, shall we? Now, you've probably heard about this step, but I'm still going to mention it. I'm not going to go into that much detail. But once you're done and you get back up, go to the bathroom and take a cold shower. Now, 1 to 2 minutes directly in the cold. Yeah, just do that, man. And the thing is, if you've done the first step, this is just going to feel like a piece of cake. You're going to be grinning. Whereas usually, if you don't do step number 2, and you have to fight a lot of resistance to enter into the cold shower like that. You have to really be there, like 15 minutes, like looking at yourself in the mirror, and then you open the water and you go in there and you're like 3, 2, 1, fuck, no, again. Do you know what I mean? This just feels like a piece of cake. This feels pleasurable. 1 to 2 minutes in. Now, cold showers. Now maybe you've even seen the real research paper, or you've heard Andrew Huberman talk about this. But let me just distill it for you. 2.5 to 3 times elevated dopamine for 3 to 4 hours. So you're going to have more dopamine, which is elevated for 3 to 4 hours. This is a game changer. What about brown fat activation, right? There's brown fat located on this part of your neck. If you activate this, that's going to increase your metabolism. So metabolism increased by 10 to 15%. Anti-inflammatory pathways, cardiovascular health, right? Cardiovascular performance, which you can take to the gym, to the boxing class, heart rate variability, lowered blood pressure, which we increase the blood pressure with the salt, but whatever. Nitric oxide production, organic, natural nitric oxide production, right? which increases the blood vessels. There's more blood flowing. Do you know what I mean? Cold showers, they're a game changer. It's the whole Wim Hof thing. You've done half of the Wim Hof breathing technique, the step before with the breath. Now you're just like finishing it over with a cold shower. Now let me give you some more like things, right? Because this is Andrew Huberman. When you're done, after that 1 to 2 minutes, when you're done, take the shower head and just for 20 to 30 seconds with the cold water going, just like put it on your nuts, right? Freeze your nuts. Look, this doesn't cost you anything. This is something that you can do for 20 to 30 seconds. It doesn't even hurt them. You don't feel resistance to doing it. But what this will do is it will constrict the vessels in your nuts. It will like make the... they will be smaller, so there's less blood passing through them, and hence there's less oxygen, less minerals, right? Less zincs and magnesiums, and less glucose, and less enzymes, and less other hormones passing, which will also decrease the production of steroid hormones, right? Naturally. Your Leydig cells are not going to get enough enzymes and everything, so they're not going to make them. But when these go back to normal, because of the, they're warmed up, organically just through living, you're going to upregulate that shit, because those nuts, your kingmakers, are going to feel like they need to overcompensate. And the net increase, look, I don't know if it looks like this, but the net increase over time is, right, imagine this is baseline. Obviously you go below, but then you go above. And this is bigger than this. This is bigger than this. This is smaller than that. So this is what I want you to do. This costs nothing, and it's another one of these like little autistic details, little, implementations, which, it's a game changer. Now, the last one is dry up naturally. So when you're done with this step, take your little towel, dry your head, dry your face, dry your hair, but don't dry your body. Just let your body dry naturally, right? This is going to upregulate your metabolism even more dopamine, more of these things. It's a bigger stress, right? You need to upregulate your body temperature. So your body temperature is going to need to go up even more to signal all these things. So when body temperature goes up, that's cortisol. So again, it's even more signaling to your circadian rhythm to start the day. So you're going to go to sleep better in the evening. It's all correlated, man. All these things, they have like 10th order consequences, which are just good for you. It's not only like testosterone and shit. It's not only like the dopamine, but it's also your health. It's your cardiovascular health. It's the fact that if you do survive until you're 80, you're going to be fit, man. Do you know what I mean? Your heart's going to be good. All that. Okay, we're done. So, you're dry, you're good, you've had a tremendous morning sex, you've had tremendous cold shower, you've had a tremendous night's sleep because you've optimized it. Now you're ready to go. And this whole thing, if you do this whole thing lasts 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, to get tremendous boost to dopamine, to testosterone, to your well-being, to how well you feel, to how well your girl feels. Do you know what I mean? These are good things. These are very good things, and no one talks about them. So now there's this whole sort of mainstream thing of saying, no, don't do a morning routine, just sit down and work. But why the fuck would you not do this? If like this means that you want to work more. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a no-brainer. Invest 30 minutes or to 45 minutes, maybe an hour if like you're slow, so that then you have more, will, more like motivation. It's a no-brainer. Now, let me say one more thing when it comes to like working and like getting shit done, because we did this thing for performance. We did this thing for results, so that we have more inputs and better inputs. Another way to have more inputs and better inputs is to remain fasted, right? I don't have to explain this. Lions hunt when they're hungry, and that's when they're at their best, right? When you're fasted, when you don't have blood going into your stomach, into your intestines to get absorbed into the bloodstream, to send it over, you have a lot of blood to go into your skeletal muscles. That's why I believe you should train fasted also. You have a lot of blood which goes into your brain, so you think better. Do you know what I mean? Just remain fasted for as long as possible. And let's say, and take caffeine. This is it, bro. As a bonus, what you can do is also like look at the sun for like 10 minutes. Don't look directly at the sun, but just, go outside or like open the window and, have your face be towards the sun. Don't stare at it, but like have your face be towards it. Okay, bro, we're done. So we talked about everything. We talked about how to optimize dopamine. We talked about how to optimize testosterone, how to get a head start to the day, how to feel very good, like with yourself, your identity, with like how, you're going to walk with fucking broad ass shoulders and stuff because you feel good, right? We looked into the science. Now, this is no cost, man. Like, you don't need, this is no supplements. This is no like diet. We're not eating anything. No, we're just leveraging lifestyle changes. This is all lifestyle. We're remaining fasted. We're getting work done. We're looking at the sun if you want to, whatever. So we're done. Now, same thing as always. The dopamine addicts are gone. The killers are left. So let me speak to you. Listen, below is a link. The link is it's a link to my calendar. If you want to talk for 30 minutes, it's free. We're just getting to know each other. Now, if I truly believe that you want to change your life, if I get the impression that your character is there, your level of consciousness is there, I'm going to make you an offer. So if that interests you, click it. Like I always say, it's fucking cringe to repeat this shit, but having bitch tits and like pelvis and like low confidence and like sexual repressions and fucking like dog shit identities and all these fucking demons I had to beat and all the addictions and all the fucking shitty things I did. I beat so many demons that they know my fucking name down there, man. And they do fear me, these cunts. So look, if that interests you, if you identify with that, if that is sort of, those are the things you want, if those are goals you want to reach, click on the fucking link, bro. We're gonna talk. Here's a list. Here's like a picture of me and like things. So if that interests you, good. If not, tremendous. You can spend a lot of time watching these videos and watching other videos and creating your own mechanisms. But if you want to speed up the process, if you want to go on steroids, I'm here to do that for you, brother. So I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.